Hi, everyone. April Cox here. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this session where we are going to talk a little bit about self-publishing. For those of you who are looking for an introduction or wondering, is self-publishing right for you? That is exactly what we're going to talk about today, so you're in the right place. Now, let's go ahead and get started. So today we're going to go over an introduction. We're going to talk about why you should self-publish, talk about the difference between self-publishing and traditional publishing, the process, and some tips and tricks, and maybe some things to watch along the way. So just a brief introduction about me. I was just inspired to self-publish as the grandchildren started coming, and I fell in love with picture books all over again. At that time, I was in a job that felt kind of like a dead end. I didn't love what I was doing, and I really needed a passion project. And also for me, it was about leaving a legacy. And I just loved what I was able to do and putting my grandkids in the books. And my little Labradoodle Brady is the main character along with his baby sister who just got introduced in the last book. We have a total now of 8 books. As you can see, it's a very Disney-esque kind of thing, all focused around children's books. I'm also currently working on a nonfiction book about self-publishing made simple, which is the program that I put together. It's a lot of fun, and it has been just an amazing journey for me. Coming from the IT world, my background was really focused around rolling out multi-million-dollar projects, project management, and transformational projects for business. So when it was my turn to start learning about self-publishing, I really immersed myself into it and loved it. When I also touched base and started mentoring other people that were going through self-publishing, and I saw how many mistakes were being made, how authors were being taken advantage of by predatory publishers, it just made me decide that I wanted to do this. And I got laid off and decided, you know what, I'm going to throw myself into self-publishing. I was very fortunate in that process to have received a severance package, which took me almost through my first year. And so that's how Little Labradoodle Publishing came about. I just really have always had this entrepreneurial spirit and wanted to work for myself, and have always had a service-oriented heart wanting to help others. And this has just become my passion and my privilege to be able to serve authors. So let's just get started with why should you self-publish? First of all, no more rejection letters. If you are out there and you're traditionally trying to get published, you are probably doing query letters and sending your manuscripts around, and there's a lot of no's. I think I've heard recently on average it takes a good 10 years to get established enough to get traditionally published. And to me, that is just way too long. Can you imagine what you can get done in 10 years self-publishing? So the other thing for me that really drew me in is the control. I never thought about traditional publishing because I tend to be a bit of a control freak. I want to choose my own characters. I want to choose my illustrator. I want to have control over everything because I have it in my head exactly what I want to get done. And with a traditional publisher, you don't necessarily have that. Also, with self-publishing, you get to keep 100% of the royalties. You're not getting a small advance and the publisher is keeping a percentage. Your illustrator might be getting a percentage. And there's a lot of work that goes into this. So why not, if you're going to do this for yourself, why shouldn't you keep the royalties? With self-publishing, it's also quicker to market. So instead of taking a couple of years to go from, they just accepted your contract to now I'm published, you can get things done in months. And for some of my students, I think the record is 4 weeks. So we had to go from, just having done the manuscript to finishing and publishing the book. So it is a much quicker turnaround, and you're going to be able to get a lot more accomplished in less time. The most important thing, I think, with self-publishing, what I love so much is the indie author community. There is an amazing group of people, friendships develop, and so much more cross-promotion happening. And I see that within the indie author community. And it's not something that I see quite as strongly when it comes to the traditional side of publishing. So let's talk a little bit about self-publishing versus traditional publishing. So with self-publishing, you don't need an agent. You don't need to do any querying. With traditional, it may take years going through agents and publishers to just get accepted so that they will start considering you for publishing. With self-publishing, this is, on the negative side, right? Self-publishing, you do have to pay for a lot of the activities that you're doing. You're going to get an editor, and you're going to do things that normally, if you were going through a publisher, they would pay for. The illustrations, if you're self-publishing, that's yours to pay. And the activities of like designing and publishing your book, you're going to learn how to do that yourself, but there's an investment that's required. On the other side of things, the publisher may pay, but again, you are able to take the information, the investment that you're making, and make sure that you're going to get those royalties turning around. So there are pros and cons to traditional publishing and to self-publishing. The pro that I really love is the control. We talked about that. On the traditional side, the publisher is really going to decide on a lot of those things that I would want to have control over. With self-publishing, you need to build your own team. Typically, a traditional publisher will have publishing resources like illustrators and editors and people that they work with. For self-publishing, you're going to have to build that team yourself. And in the course of putting my program together, I have seen people get stuck here and not be able to find an editor or find an illustrator that they really could connect with. So part of what I've done in my program is put together a really strong group of people that are pre-vetted and that you'll be able to work with, similar to what a publisher does with their own resources, except you get to be the one choosing from that list and connecting. So, that part of it is taken out for you with going through some of the programs that I'll be talking about a little bit later. You also need to market yourself. With a traditional publisher, they do, like within the first month or two of a book publishing, they're going to do a lot of press, maybe send you on some author visits or book signings. And then after a couple of months, you're kind of on your own. So you're going to have to do some marketing of yourself and your book anyway. However, with self-publishing, you really need to be building those marketing muscles. And so that's another reason why I do focus a lot on that in my programs and coaching as well. And you keep the royalties. The way that the traditional publisher works, they'll give you an advance. I think it's about, it could be anywhere from a couple $100 to $1,000. Infrequently, it's more than that. And then they'll take you, as your book sells, they'll kind of give you the royalties, but take it off of what they've already paid you. So until that advance gets paid down, then you will start receiving additional money from the publisher. So it's a little bit different. Again, there are pros and cons either way as you're going through this. If you're thinking, you know what, I don't want to pay, I don't want to do marketing, and I'm okay if the publisher takes more control, then perhaps traditional publishing is the right route for you. If you are more like me, somebody who wants to make a living out of this, you want to learn the process, you want to publish your books, you want to rapidly release things and build those 20 books, out there to get to that 50K, right? There's this 20 books to 50K kind of program out there that'll tell you that in order to really start making a living, you need to be publishing more books. And you're not going to be able to do that through traditional publishing as quickly as you can with self-publishing. So again, it's not for everybody, but certainly is something that I absolutely love. And I'll introduce you to some of the people that I work with who have done a great job with self-publishing as well. And the quicker to market could be years for traditional, and self-publishing, it's much more quick. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit now about the process that you go through. The first thing is you're writing your book. You are doing first drafts. One editor friend of mine calls it the ugly first draft, UFD, ugly first draft, right? You get it working, you go through multiple editing, self-editing, you find yourself an editor, you submit it for editing, and this process happens right up front. Then you're going to go through the editing process, and there's multiple different types of editing. There's developmental, there's line editing, copy editing, proofreading. So there's a number of different types of edits. In the developmental, which is really critical when you're first starting writing, the editor will work with you to make sure that your story flows well. It builds up to the action builds and then drops. You've got a beginning, a middle, and end that flows well. You've got action moving through your story. So they will help you to make sure that you've got a well-crafted story. When you start getting into, toward the end, they'll start more line edits, copy edits, proofreading, fixing punctuation and things like that. So these are some of the other steps. And then at the end of the editing process, I always recommend a copyright. Next, you're going to get into the illustrations. Now, I'm assuming that you are a children's book author. So if you're just publishing a nonfiction book or a memoir, perhaps there's no illustration needed and you can skip this part. But for those of you who are writing children's books, your illustrator is going to do things like storyboarding, which is very rough sketches all the way through your story. They're going to build characters, design your characters with you. You'll get more refined sketches. And then as the sketches are approved, then they turn into coloring. And of course, a cover illustration for you as well. So that process tends to be the longest when you're a children's book author to get done. That's the greatest length of this whole process. So I have selected and curated a bunch of fantastic illustrators that my people can work with in order to make sure that we're going to be able to work through things within the 12-week period that I do with my courses. So if you're wanting to make sure that this is not going to end up turning into 6 months, then there's some things that I can help and share with you on how to make sure this process works well and that you're choosing people that are going to be professional and also work with you. I also have a special contract that I use, which is a work for hire contract. So the illustrators that I have put together accept that. And that means that you will own the illustrations when they're done. That means that you're not going to pay them any royalties. You're going to pay them well for their work, don't get me wrong, but the work product is yours. So if you decide you want to do t-shirts or activity books or other things with those characters, they're yours to do with what you want. Okay. Next, here we have the formatting process. And some people call it the design and formatting process. But it's the person who's going to take the words that you've already finalized, the pictures that your illustrator put together, and create a beautiful flowing design that is going to make it start looking like a picture book. So all of that happens. And then from there, they move forward with creating the files, delivering you the files that then will be those that will turn into your finished book. At that point, you move forward through to publishing. There's pre-launch activities that are always really helpful when you're getting ready to publish your book. There's a lot of things like maybe putting a launch team together, putting your book on pre-order. You're going to upload, you're going to maybe order a proof copy or two, go through that, make sure everything's looking good. And then you're going to launch your book. And then, of course, all the way through this process, not just at the end, all the way through this process, we are doing planning and we're doing marketing. Maybe at the beginning of the process, marketing is more like, hey guys, I'm writing a book. And if you want to follow me, I just put a page together. You can follow me there. Maybe you do some sneak peeks and you talk about what things you're passionate about. You talk about the topic of your book. Maybe you share some things, build relationships with organizations or influencers that are, write about the topics that you are including in your book. And so as you move forward, and with my course, every single week of the 12 weeks, we have a marketing activity to teach you and to talk about and to get you sharing your journey with your readers and your perfect avatar, that perfect person that is going to be looking for your book and want to jump right in and grab it as soon as it's ready. So we build that knowledge. We practice some things along the way so that when you publish, it is not going to be to crickets, right? We want to make sure people know it's coming and that you do a good job and you get the reviews you need so that the book starts selling. So that's the process of self-publishing that we go through. So there's some decisions that you need to make as a self-published author. Are you going to just create this book for yourself? Meaning if it's a legacy project, maybe you've got a memoir that you want to write, but you only want to make it available for you, your kids and grandkids, then you can actually write and publish a book but not have it shown to anybody except you? You can go on and order your books, print them for yourself, or do you want to make it available to others as well? That's something to think about. There's also a choice between print on demand, which is where you upload these files that come from your designer to Amazon, Ingram Spark, others like that. And then your book becomes available to people on Amazon. They can find it. If they choose to order your book, Amazon will actually print it and send it to them. That's what we mean by print on demand. When an order comes in, they print the book, they send it. Of course, they take their little cut for that, and then you get the royalties that remain. The other side of it would be going to a printer, maybe in the US or in China, and ordering in bulk. So you get 1,000 books. Now those books come to your home and you are selling those, or you're listing them on Amazon or other things like Shopify or eBay or whatever. So you are selling physical books. And it's not one or the other. So, some people can do both. You can actually have a print on demand version that goes out and gets sold, and you have less delivery, but you can also order some books for yourself too with an offset printer. And that way, if you want to do events, children's, summits, conferences, or you want to do school visits, you'll have some inventory that you can take with you, but you don't have to get a huge volume of books. So there's pros and cons to both of those. We talk about that in my course as well. And with my students, we dig deeper into that. Also important to think about, what size book will you create? I recommend you go to bookstores, go to the library, and handle books. Ask the librarian, what are the books that are selling best in this particular age group? Or do you have books around this topic that I can see and handle and look at? What are the best sellers in that topic? So once you start to really handle them, understand, get the size that you feel really best fits for your audience and for your topic, then I would just make sure that it is available print on demand size, because even though it's not necessary, if you're going to go offset printing, you can order it in any size you want. But in the future, if you ever decide, I don't want to keep stocking books at my home, I would like to go to print on demand. If that size isn't available on print on demand, you may end up having to reformat your book. So just give that as part of the consideration as well, what sizes are available so that you can have the best of both worlds. And then what kind of a book will you create? Is it going to be an ebook, board book, paperback, hardcover, multiple of those? So you'll need to know that so that you can work on budgeting and pricing and working with your graphic designer so they know exactly what it is that you're trying to produce. And of course, your genre. It's an important thing to understand what genre that you're writing in. It's not just children's books, but it's, what subset or what niche are you going into within that? And to be able to do some research about what are the best sellers in there? What are they all doing that's similar? And to really be able to do some digging and really immerse yourself into what's selling well in that niche. It's going to make a big difference later when it comes time for you to start selling your books. So now I'm going to focus a little bit on common self-publishing mistakes. The number one thing I want to talk about, and I know this is me standing on a soapbox, and I apologize in advance, but predatory publishers are why I got into this business to begin with, because I had one lady that I helped. She came to me as, just asking for some help. She was having trouble selling her book, and she was asking me for help with ads. And she showed me the book, and I kind of looked at the listing online, and I said, well, I'm going to just be honest with you here. I think we need to redo the cover. The interior really needs reworking. And there are some things that, with the layout and the listing and other things that I think we need to fix. And then we can go ahead and start advertising it. And I swear she was so upset. And she said to me, April, I spent $26,000 to get this book done by a publisher. And she had gone through a predatory publisher, and she didn't know. She just found somebody online that said that they were, would help you publish your book She paid all this money and she didn't have access to anything. They had listed her book under their account. They purchased the ISBN. So according to Amazon, they were the owner of the book. They owned the ISBN. They were the publisher. She didn't have access to anything, no way to get in there and change anything. So I volunteered to try to help her unravel this situation. And it took months to go through this with her publisher, and $5,300 more she had to pay to get the book back from them. And then we had to start over with the cover and some of the interior layout, because while the illustrations were really nice, the quality of what they did in the other areas just was not. And she had already paid so much. So when it comes to predatory publishers, I just, that's what got me to say, I want people to have other options so that they can learn how to publish themselves, so that they don't run into these issues that are going to cost a ton of money and they're going to add a whole bunch of extra time into their publishing. So just do your research. There's a website called the Alliance of Independent Authors. You can sign up as a member, or you can at least just search their website. And they're a bit of a watchdog group. They will let you know if publishers are predatory, and you can search. Also ask other authors that, when you're in some of these Facebook groups, ask other authors, have you ever worked with this publisher? What are your experiences? Because some call themselves hybrid publishers. Some of them are just vanity presses where people just want to publish a book before they, for one reason or another, whether to grow their business or it's a bucket list item. And a vanity press will just take the book, publish it, get it going. Some of them are better than others. There's a good reason to use them for some people who are just don't want to do their own publishing. But just be careful, because there are a lot of predatory people there. And that's, like I said, one of the reasons why I got into this, doing this for others, because I don't want to see people get duped like that. The second one here is skipping a professional edit. You don't want to do that. It's not enough to have a professor, a friend, a family member, a neighbor edit your book. You're going to want to find somebody who is very well versed in your genre and is a professional editor, does this for a living. People pay them for it. You are going to get a much better book at the end of it, because that is also another area where if people come to me and say, hey, I've got these issues with my book, a lot of times they're getting really low reviews for things like the editing being really off, grammatical errors, issues with the editing itself can cause people to just give you very low reviews. And then all of a sudden, a book that you worked a fraction of a year on is now not very viable if you're getting a bunch of low reviews. You want to put your best foot forward and get that quality book out there. So don't skip a professional edit. Also, contracts and written agreements. I do share my contract templates with authors in my group, because I got into a bad contract in my first book, and I promised myself I would never go through that again. So the contract I put together, again, is a work for hire contract. You get to own the rights to the work that's being done for you. They also agree to give you the source files when they're done, so that if you ever need to get back in and tweak anything, you have all of those source files to share with another designer or another illustrator. I made sure that this was really protecting the author. So don't move forward without having a really solid contract with your illustrator or with those that are going to work with you on your project. Marketing as an afterthought, we don't want that. We want marketing all the way through this process of building your book. And don't worry that this is going to be a little bit difficult for you at first. It's practice. It comes with practice, and it takes time to just exercise those muscles. It's a little scary to tell people you're writing a book, but as you start to share and you find people embracing you and being really excited for you, it gets easier. And then when you start putting sneak peeks out there and you see the excitement that happens with others, you'll start to really be able to move forward. And building relationships is much different than, the idea of a sleazy car salesman, right? That's not who we are. So be yourself, but push yourself a little outside your comfort zone and take people along on your journey. That's the best advice I can give you from a marketing perspective. And just keep learning. It takes time and it takes practice, but you will be able to get through the marketing process. I promise you. And, compromising on quality is not something that I would recommend. These are not the kinds of things that you want to do if you're going to create a professional book. My goal for you is that your book stands next to any traditionally published book in the library and people would not know the difference. So if that's what you want to create and you want to, publish one or more, turn this into a business, then you're going to want to make sure that that brand speaks to the quality that you're providing. And kids aren't going to purchase, adults aren't going to purchase those books that just don't look like they've got the quality that they're used to in the bookstores and the libraries. And then last is going it alone. Just because it's called self-publishing does not mean it's something you have to do yourself. You're going to need a team of people that you can trust. I would say get a mentor or somebody that can help you guide through this. Plug into a community of authors. And I'll talk a little bit more as we go through this presentation about the author work group that I have, where you can get together with a group of other people all going through this process at the same time. It's highly recommended to build that community and to have a proven step-by-step system that can help you with a little bit of hand-holding along the way. So some common questions, fears, and doubts that I hear from a lot of people. It's too complex. I don't know if I'll be able to finish it. Isn't self-publishing something that is looked down upon? There's a lot of misconceptions about self-publishing, and that has been out there for a while, that there's some sort of stigma to self-publishing with people saying, I want to do it the right way, the traditional way. And what really boils down to is that self-publishing has come a long way since everything started at the beginning with low-quality books. There's a lot of self-published authors who are doing amazing things. There's awards out there, professional organizations around self-published authors. It has come just leaps and bounds ahead. And when things came to almost a complete halt with the COVID situation for regular publishers, it was the people that moved forward with self-publishing that started really working through and getting books published, where the traditionally published community kind of just took a halt because they didn't know what to do and what was happening with everything. And it takes years to publish through their process. So when things came to a halt there, it's going to take a while for them to get started moving through things again. And with self-publishing, you're the one that's driving it. Imposter syndrome. A lot of people struggle with this. I don't know if I'm good enough. Is my work good enough? Just get into a program, get some training, go through some things. And I invite you to consider the one that I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Is it too expensive? Can I make money? We're going to answer some of those questions with a template that I'm going to share with you just for being here today. It is my self-publishing budget template. I'm also going to share with you my self-publishing checklist, because I want each of you to leave with something today so that you have the ability to understand and have some good information while you're deciding which direction to go. Okay, so now I'm going to introduce you to some of the people that put those misconceptions aside and moved forward with their publishing. This is Kathleen Markath. She is a student of mine who wrote My Monster Truck Goes Everywhere with Me. Her passion for sign language was introduced into the book, and she actually she calls it illustrated with sign language. So she's got the illustrations, she's got sign language that helps teach and allow people to become more familiar with the phrases and the sign language that goes with it. So her book, as you can see, is gorgeous, very high quality. She received a starred review from Kirkus, which is very rare. And as a result of that, Kirkus also entered her book into the competition, and she ended up with the best books of 2021. She was in the top 100 books for the year for Kirkus. Amazing accolades for her. And she has been continuing to partner with other organizations who are helping kids who are hearing impaired and has started a whole new career for her. So this is Kathleen. You can find out more information about Kathleen at aslpicturebooks.com. Katie wrote a book called Mighty Mila. Look at the beautiful cover here. We are not talking about low quality books. She's a student that's gone through my course, and you can see her accepting a gold IBPA Benjamin Franklin Award for children in YA. The book itself was inspired by her daughter, who has a cochlear implant. She wants a children's book that shows a hearing impaired child just being themselves. And so she couldn't find the book, so she wrote it. And she has a lot of awards in her list here. She's making a difference and starting to partner with other organizations, again, that are focused on hearing impaired children. And this has become a very profitable book for her as she's moving into book number 2. So you can see the book and learn more about Katie at mightymila.com. This is Misty. She is really killing it right now as an authorpreneur. She started with me, I think, probably 3.5 years ago, maybe. And she now has 23 books and counting. She's sold over 80,000 copies. She went from a part-time property manager to a full-time publisher. And she's now helping other authors as well. Her books are gorgeous, and she is doing amazing things. And you can check her out at berrypatchpress.com. So some of you may be thinking, gee, can I make a business out of this? Is it really possible? And the answer is absolutely yes, it is possible. You can do this. You can step into a business and publish multiple books and have a nice passive income that is done. And, one of the things, I just recently spoke with Misty, and she said that this year she hasn't published any books because she's focusing on courses and other things. And her books have basically replaced her income and allowed her to focus on learning some new things and take that year to really just let the books continue to carry the income that she needed to be able to focus. So it is possible, and it is something that with the right foundation and beautiful quality books, you can make a difference. It can change your life and can change your career. This is Sarah Catherine. She is a member of my team now. She started as a student. She's a disabled author who has her little service dog here, Alice Eloise. She wrote a book about Alice Eloise's silver linings. She's now working on book 2. And this is whose life has, again, been changed for the better. She went from being very isolated within her home. She has really just embraced self-publishing, and self-publishing has embraced her. Her books are selling really well. She has not only published, but now she's working on graphic design. She does a number of things for authors and has her income level, her ability to communicate and network with other authors has just really made a huge difference for Sarah. She is just an amazing individual who has never let anything hold her back. And self-publishing, publishing her story about her and her service dog has made all the difference and got her into this whole new world that has opened for her. And I'm just really proud to say that she's a member of my team, and you'll probably be meeting her if you do move into some of the courses that we do together. Next here is Gretchen Cadillac. She published a book called Am I Your Favorite? It was based for her children. She was honoring her loved ones, but also growing her business. She is a self-care coach. She wanted to do this project to learn the self-publishing. And she's also self-publishing her own book, teaching people about self-care. The first thing that she's wanted to do is get through this story with her children. As an empty nester, the kids would always ask who her favorite was. And so she said, I'm going to finally put it all to rest, and I'm going to answer their question. And it's a very funny book. As you can see, it's really beautifully illustrated. And again, if you're interested in checking out Gretchen and some of the things she does, you can look her up at apowerfulyou.com. And she is a self-care coach who is absolutely amazing, by the way. But she is doing big things and just learning the process of self-publishing by doing something like this that she's wanted to do for a very long time. All right. What about the excuse I hear often is, am I too old? Here's Pat Dana, and her book is called Delmar the Dinky. Again, gorgeously illustrated. It was a bucket list item for her. Well, she came to me with very little experience on being able to publish, or even technology itself was a little bit difficult for her. But she just threw herself into the self-publishing. For the first book, we did it together. She learned a lot of the technology. We walked through it. I mentored her through a lot of things. And now today she's actually in there uploading her own books, managing her own ads on Amazon. And she is there helping and mentoring other people that just need help and answering questions. And she is just a wealth of information on self-publishing. And it's really opened her world because, again, self-publishing can be a very lonely process. So when you do it in a group or you engage in a group, it can really open up and just provide you with so much more communication and expand your knowledge and expand your network. I saw Pat really go from very nervous and, not knowing much of anything about technology to somebody who has really embraced learning and just thrown herself into this whole new world. And she's, by the way, just getting ready to publish book 2 in the Delmar the Dinky series. And I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. She is really having fun and is doing an amazing job. So no, you are not too old. And here's Linda Hansen. She is an accidental author. She lives in an area that's very rural. She has a river that runs behind or on her property. And she had otters that came to visit. And she would just go out there and she would watch them. This one otter she nicknamed Otto. And she started painting the otter and just took pictures. And her neighbors would say, you really just need to write a book. So she said, I never really thought about that, but she had all these paintings and she started painting her own illustrations in her later years. I think she said somewhere north that way of 70. And she, just was looking for doing painting as a hobby. Well, she joined my author group and we turned Otto the Otter, her paintings, into this beautiful illustrated children's book with her own artwork, as well as the updates to her story and the layout. And it's a beautiful, professionally done book. She has embraced her role. She's out there marketing her books, going to events. She's visiting bookstores and setting up book signings, and she's just everywhere. I saw such growth with Linda. It was just amazing to see. And she is just such an awesome example to follow. And she always told me at the beginning, I'm a one and done author. I'm just going to get this one out there. But now Linda's talking about what the next book is going to be. So it's not one and done. This accidental author has turned into what I think will be another authorpreneur with many books under her sleeve. So this is just another different approach. For those people that say, can we really make money? This is Dr. Bree Turns. She's a very busy professional counselor, very busy, not able to do a lot of marketing, but she wanted to create a children's book. And her first book, I Will Always Love You, has sold over 50,000 copies. She clears between $1,000 and $3,000 a month, and this is just passive income. She has since released 2 additional books and counting because she's continuing to do more work. And she does not do a lot of marketing. She does not do a lot of activities, book signings, things like that. She really relies on Amazon ads, and they have served her really well. And I think a lot of that has come from this gorgeous cover. It's beautifully illustrated book. And it serves a specific purpose, a baby shower gift or a gift for a new mom. And it's just really been accepted well. And for a first book to sell that quickly and to start making money almost right away, it does happen. And so the key is to make a beautiful, high quality book. And marketing doesn't have to be crazy. You do what fits best for you. And so for Bree, it happened to be Amazon ads. Some people say, oh, I'm just too busy, could never do self-publishing. Samantha is a busy surgeon with a passion for empowering girls. She's published these 3 books, When I'm a Surgeon, When I'm an Entrepreneur, and When I'm an Astronaut is coming, probably within the next month. So all of these beautiful books empower girls. Again, she's a busy surgeon that does not have the time to be self-publishing. So for her, it was more of a done-for-you approach. I have been marshaling all of her books through the system for her, with her, and just keep taking her with me. And she is definitely an authorpreneur that's continuing to build a backlist and continuing to publish children's books. So again, if you're too busy, there's still an option there as well. Here's another final success story here I wanted to talk about. This is Rachel. She had a rough go with her first book. It was a book where she crocheted the illustrations. She crocheted the puppy Pete and she took pictures of them. The book really sold well with her crochet community, but it wasn't selling well for children's books in the children's book arena. She didn't give up. She decided to hang in there. And her second book, she decided to put a Christmas book out there. Well, that book has sold over $40,000 worth of profit in last year's Christmas season. And this year, we're expecting to do at least 1.5 times that, because we're going to start earlier with the ads and continue to move forward. It's still selling, believe it or not. So again, you might have a miss. Don't give up. Keep going. She is now getting ready to launch 3 additional books. We're doing those together as more of a done-for-you solution. But this is just an amazing success story about what a little grit can do and refusing to give up and continuing with your dream. And because you will have misses, and it's important to be able to work through them and keep going. And again, beautiful book. You can check out Santa's Lost Reindeer or go to Rachel's website, and it's spiritfrogpress.com. Okay, so if you want to get started with self-publishing, I would say do some goal setting. You want to know, what are you doing this for? And then do some research. Research your idea, your niche, the target audience, your competitors, and really start to build, is this idea that I have one that's marketable? Have others who have written about this been successful? What kind of covers do they have? What kind of quality is the book? So what can you anticipate? And get those lists of competitors, save their book covers off so that you can compare when you start putting your books together, and go and visit the library and handle some of those books that are in that same genre so that you can make some really quality decisions. And invest some time in learning, courses, YouTube videos. I will tell you that while I have a heart for teaching and I do offer services, I also offer a lot of things at no charge for people that are just getting in to try to do some research and see whether or not self-publishing could work for them. So I have a group called Learn to Self-Publish with April Cox. That's a Facebook group, and that's free. You can log in, you can just get some help and share your stories or where you're getting stuck. I also have a free YouTube channel called Self-Publishing Made Simple with April Cox. And it has over 200 videos there with all kinds of information, interviews with authors. The most recent series that I've just uploaded is called The Rise of Kid Authors. So not only are you not too old, but you're not too young either. And you can check out some of the interviews with these kid authors who I've helped, along with their parents, publish their books. And what an amazing transformation in these kids. So check out those videos. They're completely free. And it's a great way to learn and start absorbing information about self-publishing. Now, you're going to need a positive mindset to be successful. You're going to need grit and resilience. It's not always going to be perfect. And you're going to need some project funding, because in order to be successful, like I said, you are going to have to be able to fund the book. Some people will fund it through savings. Some people will put it on a credit card. Some people will go through Kickstarter and raise funds that way. It's more of a crowdfunding solution. But regardless, I think you can be successful. You can spend some time researching and preparing. And then I would like to invite you to check out some information about my course. It is a 12-week course where we run through everything from getting your manuscript edited at the beginning, all the way through to the publishing process. There's also a self-study, go at your own pace option as well. So I'm glad to talk through, and I'll jump onto my course page just so that you can see some of the things that I'm offering. So I am on my website, selfpubmadesimple.com. And this is the author work group, which is, if I go to under products and services, self-publishing course, and you get here, it's a 12-week course. It is packed with years of expert knowledge. I started this in 2018 and have run the work group 2 to 3 times a year. And always with every session have added additional templates, tools, wherever people were getting stuck. I jumped in and said, okay, how can we prevent that from happening again? And we do the next one. Like, that's how I added this big list of people, because people were getting stuck on the illustrations or finding their editor. When people needed a template to figure out their budget, we created that. So there's a lot of things that you're going to have kind of taken off of your shoulders as we walk through step by step 12 weeks of the process. There's a beautiful video here that my students surprised me with after one specific work group. They talk about their experience and what they loved about the course. You're welcome to check that out as well. It's 12 weeks where we meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 8 to 9:30 Eastern. On the Thursday, I'll stay later if we need to. The first meeting of the week is where we get together and we have a lesson that we walk through each week. You're also going to have access to a course with videos and all kinds of training in it. And then each week I'll talk about the topic of that week. And then on Thursdays, I just show up in front of Zoom and I ask people, what do you need help with? Who's struggling? How can I help you move forward? And sometimes they'll share, their cover designs or samples that they've received, and they'll give each other feedback as well, which is really cool. So you get that hand holding a couple times a week. And by the way, I know there were some people out there who said evenings are not good for them. Either they're in a different time zone, because this is Eastern time zone that I was quoting. So some people that are in the UK or other areas of the world were not able to attend the evening session. So I actually did just open up a 1 p.m. Eastern session as well. So whether an afternoon session works good for you or it just helps you because of the time zone difference, you do have access to the 1 p.m. time slot as well. These are some of the different bonuses that you get as part of this. You get a planning and strategy session with me. Group coaching, these are for the ones that are not self-study. Large network of resources. I have a resource library that I use that is filled with templates, tools, over 700 influencers for children's book authors, over 80 different sites you can choose to promote your book with, lots of marketing templates, activities, tons of extra video options for people that need to learn things like how to advertise their book or how to market their book, pre-recorded videos, and personal expertise and one-on-one coaching with me as well. So the other thing I wanted to say also is that I'm offering 100% money-back guarantee. If you spend 4 weeks with me and you don't believe that this is something for you, you weren't able to attend, you didn't find it was helpful, or you've changed your mind, personal circumstances, it doesn't matter what the issue is, you will get a 100% money back guarantee, no questions asked. I think I've only had to do that once or twice, more due to personal circumstances than any issue with the course. So anyway, that's the end of my presentation here. I know that you're interested in self-publishing or you would not be watching this video. I'm also aware that when you first get started with self-publishing, there's a lot of information out there, a lot of conflicting information. So a couple of links. One is where you can get my self-publishing checklist, which goes through all of the things that are required from beginning to end with self-publishing. And there's a video that walks you through every step of it. And the next is my self-publishing budgeting template, and a video that walks you through how to fill out the template and what types of things you can anticipate spending money on. So I hope that those serve you well. Now, if you are watching this on video and you have questions, I'd like to offer you a consult, a free consult. Just go to my website, go down here, and on the homepage, you'll see an opportunity to add a free consult, and we'll spend 30 minutes together. I'll answer your questions, no charge. If my program's not right for you and I know one that might be better fit, I'll absolutely point you in that right direction. But I want to be here to answer your questions, to serve. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. For those that are attending this meeting on replay, I will post in the show notes and you'll be able to find the links where you can go and claim those bonuses.